every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Daily Palace podcast, brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. Despite having had a visually disconcerting shave, I'm still Joe Lodge, and with me today are Wale Bakare. How's it going, Wale?
I'm good, Joe. Great to see you.
And great to see you too, Wale. And also Finn. How you doing, Finn?
Hello. It's as we were just discussing in the green room before, I'm in full hibernation mode, so I'm readying myself for the English winter. It's almost upon us, I feel.
I think that's the way to do it. You've got to try and take pleasure in getting cozy and not going out and eating sort of warming stews, sitting in a nudie, etc., rather than embracing the fact that clearly it's much less pleasant than being somewhere sunny.
Absolutely. I made a nice pumpkin soup over the weekend from the leftovers of the Halloween pumpkin. So
yeah, that is spot on. That is proper autumn going into December core. And then we've got the Christmas build up, and that's all okay. And then January and February, and they're not okay. But there's only two of them, so it's really not too bad. So we talk about last weekend's fixture today, before, as ever, finishing with a ridiculous bonus section. The country's contingent of conservationists with death wishes will have been pleased to see wild wolves in the West Midlands on Saturday. Palace drew away at Molineux in a ding-dong 2-2, predicted almost exactly by a young, charismatic podcaster in our crossover episode of Wolves last Thursday, I seem to remember. What are your overall impressions of the match, Wale? Is that a fair result?
Well, yeah, it was. I think even before the game, we sort of wondered if it was one of those that would, end up all square, because we talked so much about both teams not getting the results that they deserve, from the first couple of games this season, and it set us all up for a situation of we wouldn't want Wolves to lose another game, or we wouldn't want Palace to lose another game, but so surprisingly, it wasn't a drab draw. It was, a game with a lot of incidents, a lot of relatively goal mouth action, chances created. Although it was the defenders getting the goals for Palace, but Wolves turned up, Palace turned up, and we, got a performance that we've maybe quite gotten used to with Palace this season, finding a way to, come back into the game, grind out results. And that was exactly what happened. Fantastic finish by Trevor Chalobah, by the way. That was that. Well, when you look at it again, you think, oh, the space was there, but trust me, that could easily have gone wrong. That angle was a bit tight, and fantastic finish by him. The defense were great. The players, turned up, especially considering we made so much about Ebere Chieze's absence, Adam Wharton's absence, but we also saw Glasner change system a bit. So there was just, a number of things to learn from the game and a number of positives. And when you look at it overall, Wolves played well, Palace played well. It would have been nice, if Palace had gotten 3 points in the game. But then, considering the fact that we went 2-1 behind, so you cannot be utterly disappointed by the 2-2 result.
Yeah, I think that we've spoken a lot about how Palace have usually had sort of one good half, one bad half, one half of the pitch that's playing well in terms of defence or the attack, one half that isn't. Here it was closer to kind of more or less 80 minutes of sort of fairly all right, quite good, and then 10 minutes of just being carved open at will, which ultimately I think is where the game was lost. But as you touch on there, Wale, I'd say the big positive for Palace is the ability they showed in that game to create chances, actually create more XG than they have in any game before under Glasner, and did it without Eze in the team, and obviously without Elise in the team, has been the problem arguably all season. There is probably a small caveat to that this is potentially more reflective of Wolves' struggles from set pieces, which have been a problem for them all season, than it is of Palace working anything too much out. Maybe that's a bit harsh. I think there were some good set piece routines from Palace, but it did seem to be like dead balls were the source of most of the great chances that the team had. Are there any players you'd like to single out for praise or rather indeed rebuke for their performances in this game, Finn?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel I'm sort of in two minds about this game because, like, I think it was great. The positive is that I think they had great tenacity, the squad, to get back in each time. And what we've seen is in previous games is when Palace go behind, the heads drop, and that's it. It's sort of game over before the 90. In this, though, they came back twice, and I was really impressed with that tenacity. That's the positive. And as you said, as you've alluded to, the chances were being created. So kudos to players such as Daichi Kamada, Ismaila Sarr as well. His productivity was good, but I will come back to him. I also have a good joke about him later on, just to keep the listeners enticed. I think the defense did really well, but as we're starting to see, if you play a high line in football, it leaves you very susceptible at the back to counterattacks. And Wolves are no mugs. Wolves have got some really good attacking players. They've got Mateus Cunha, they've got Jorgen Strand Larsen, Joao Gomez had a worldie in the second half, like sort of just flipped the game on its head. And Palace, it was sort of like neither team was dominant even. It was like a basketball match. It was going back and forward, and sort of you could see the momentum was shifting each time. And it's great for the neutral, pretty crap for for Palace and Wolves fans, especially Wolves fans. I could really sense in the ground there was a real sense of unease and like unhappiness, but which sort of shifted, I suppose, a little bit by the end of the game. Even though I heard boos at the full time, which I was surprised by. But yeah, I think players did well. I just want to shout out Mark Gahey, Trevor Chalobah, Daniel Munoz, Daichi Kamada, and others did well. But just, I feel like, again, Jean-Philippe Mateta, he did have a sort of a disallowed goal, but I feel like he could have done a teeny tiny bit more. Eddie Nketiah, I even said this to my dad as we were watching the game. I just said, it's a real sort of stereotype about a striker, but it's so true. It's like when a striker's lacking confidence, they just need a goal, don't they? They just need, and then they suddenly, it just gets them back into the swing of things. And you can just see even simple passes and things like that are not coming off for him at the moment, and it's must be affecting his confidence and vice versa. And I just feel like even one of the goals that was conceded was he had an opportunity to lay up Mark Gahey, who sort of bombed forward, and it's fantastic when you have your defenders able to do that or to offer an attacking option. And it should have been an easy little pass through. But unfortunately, Nketiah he mucked the pass up. And Gahey's out of position. Wolves break, goal. And it was just like, and it just goes to show you, it's fantastic that we're pressing up high and that we're doing those things. But there just needs to be that little bit more edge and a bit more quality up in the final third. Otherwise, if we're going to carry on playing football like this for the rest of the season, it just means we're going to concede a lot of goals. And unfortunately, and that's fine if we're scoring goals. But as I was saying before, Ismaila Sarr, my Lord, he could have had a hat trick, really, of chance, like a hat trick of goals. Like, really, I felt he did all the hard stuff sort of really well. And then just when it came to finishing, I could even see at one point, I think it was when he hit the ball over the bar, so when it was sort of dragged back, and Daniel Munoz was in front of him, and Daniel Munoz did the classic sort of head and hands, like, even he didn't understand how that hadn't gone in. So I feel my positive spin on it is saying Ismail Assar owes us a few goals. I'm not going to go, oh, he's finished, he's rubbish, he's done. I'm just going to say he owes Palace a few goals now, which I'm sure he'll do. Just a bit like how Daichi Kamada, I think, was written off by a lot of Palace fans. And then in the last week seems to have really sort of spun that around and shown his quality. I'm positive Ismail Assar will click into place. And we sort of really need him to, because we're running out of players as well. And I think going back to what you were saying about missing players like Eze and stuff, like I feel like if we maybe had a few other players who were available for that game, it might have been a different story. But I feel that was definitely a game we should have won. I'll take the point, but a bit disappointing that we didn't win.
Yeah, I think Palace have to consider themselves a better team on the whole, and all the stats, match reports, and vibes reflect that. I think that's an important point you raised to circle back into it. The atmosphere at Molineux was really not great, even for considering they'd then right back to go 2-1 up. I don't think it was kind of frenetic at that point, but still feel a bit of menace in the air, booing some of Gary O'Neill's substitutions, perhaps even worse in terms of the energy around the club, cheering the decision to take Sarabia off after he failed to score in 2 1-on-1s. I think Palace will come away from that thinking, probably the better team on the day and deserved more than a draw just about, but kind of heartened by it because they've gone, right, we're in a better state than these lot in terms of how the positivity around the club, the performances on the pitch, and just sort of the sense of optimism. I think you kind of, as a football fan base, can create crises where they needn't be, or you can be one of these really calm clubs. Like, look at Brentford have gone on some really long non-winning runs under Thomas Frank and stuff, and they've just kind of gone, it's fine, they'll level out, trust the recruitment, trust the manager, and it kind of, whereas another club might have sacked the manager and got themselves into a spiral, they've just sort of weathered it out. And I think Palace will be feeling vindicated in that approach, if that is the approach that the board have gone down, and broadly feels like it's kind of the way where the fans' heads are at, to me. Obviously, I have to jump in the defence of Jean-Philippe Mateta and say that he very much could have had 2 goals in that game. Chalobah gets in the way of a goal-bound volley.
It's true.
And
that happened twice. It was weird. Like, there was Chalobah's bum. Let's be real. Chalobah's bum got in the way. Mateta shot.
He didn't know much about it.
Tyreek Mitchell and Daichi Kamada sort of had that clash. It reminded me of like when you play football in the playground and you both go for the same ball. And it's like none of you, you know what I mean? Like, and neither of you sort of shout or claim the ball. So they sort of just looked at each other afterwards and were like shrugging, like look at each other. Like.
I was terrible for that, not claiming the ball. Equally, I wasn't really going for the ball most of the time, waiting for it to spill out to the back post. Maybe why I like Jean-Philippe Mateta so much. That was my style. Barry, I think that'd be a good time. Take a break, have a word from our sponsors, and then pick this discussion back up with topics including, should Jean-Philippe Mateta have had a second goal or first goal, but should he have scored 2? We can get a bit talk sport about this, so we'll get into that after this word from the sponsors. Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out a link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. So we won't get into that particular point just yet. One thing I wanted to touch on, Finn's already brought it up to some extent there. I want to get your thoughts as well, Wale. Could Palace use a player like Mateus Cunha / how good was he?
Well, It's obviously a good player. I think last week ahead of the game we did mention. I think it was Finn who was talking about how Cunha can be a very dangerous player for Wolves. He tends to really understand the job of that striker who drifts into the midfield, gets the ball, drags the defense out, creating spaces for other players. It might not be getting the goal, but it will create chances for you. And it's just always on the move and always dangerous, and is a very good player. But then when you say can Palace do with a player like Cunha, I could argue, well, Eze is like that, maybe
I
better,
can say I
you know.
agree, yeah.
So, I don't know whether you want two Cunhas in your starting lineup, but then, Palace have got Eze. Maybe Palace don't have that kind of don't have someone playing the center, the number 9 position, drifting into the midfield and beating players in ground duels. But then Mateta's, beating players in aerial duels anyway. So at least you can take one of those. I think he won 4 of his 6 duels in the last game. But Cunha is a very fantastic player. At least for his level, does great job for Wolves. Always a constant threat for opposition defenders. But then, as I said, Palace have got Eze. On his day, is as good as anyone can. Take the ball from the defenders, beat everyone, and get a goal if he wants to. So I really wouldn't say Palace need a player like Cunha, but of course Wolves need a player like Cunha, and they've got it. But Palace have got Eze as well.
I think you make a fair point. Palace do have a player like Cunha, and I'd take Eze over him. That said, he was wonderful to watch your points in this game. Such a silky touch, and probably suits Wolves better than Palace. I think where we see him do his best work is streaking forward on the counter attack, and even though he's not blisteringly fast, he's just got that understanding of space, and it's that cool head, isn't it? While everything's frantic around you, his ability to find the pass, read the game, just use the momentum of a defender against them, as was shown with poor Trev Chalobah at the weekend, where he takes that ball down and completely sits him on his bum. It's fun to watch. I mainly wanted to just
I
get
don't know. I don't know
appreciation.
why.
Really.
I was gonna say I don't know why Chelsea sold him. He could be playing instead of Nicholas Jackson, honestly. And
Oh,
he would,
Nicholas Jackson.
Who's
I don't know. I
that?
mean, we talked about his Mo
Who's Cunha?
Salah earlier in terms of
Um,
if you keep getting the chances, they start going in. Nicholas
no,
Jackson's
I'm
not
saying
bad.
Chalobah would be,
Chalobah
would be a better 9 for them than Nicholas Jackson.
continue had played for
Oof,
Chelsea.
savage.
Yeah, I mean, what a finish! What a finish from Chalobah. It's a very good point, Wale.
Excellent technique.
Oh, I mean, just squeezed it in, Van Persie-esque, didn't he? That near post there was fantastic. He of course did also just airball like 1 from 3 yards in the first half. But less said about that, the better. Let's do the talk sport thing. Jamie O'Hara caps on. Finn, should Mateta's goal at the end have been ruled out, or has the game gone?
Listen, I'm never going to wear a Jamie O'Hara cap. Just going to put that out there. He's a donut. That's the nicest thing I could say about that guy. If I was going to be sort of super biased, Crystal Palace, have no common sense, I'd be like, yeah, goals should stand, 3 points, bish, bash, bosh. But I have eyes in my head, and I also understand what the rules of the game are. If the goalkeeper has 2 hands on the ball, and then receives a challenge, it's a foul. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And as much as I'd love to have taken those 3 points and Jean-Philippe Mateta get another goal, the rules, them's are the breaks. The rules are the rules. And there you go, nice and easy. Not very talk sport. Sorry, not very Jamie O'Hara.
I completely agree. I mean, I think it's some of the discourse around this is a bit ridiculous. You can see why it's kind of frustrating. Pundits of the game's gone kind of variety keep saying things like, with goalkeepers, if there was any other player, that wouldn't be a foul. If it was any other player, it would have been a handball denial of a serious goal scoring opportunity and a red card.
Exactly.
Of course, the rules are different around goalkeepers.
There's players on the pitch who you breathe too quickly near them, and it's a free kick. So I totally disagree with whoever said that. Yeah. No, can I just point out, totally unrelated. Did anyone else find it really weird that Wolves have a player called Totti? I kept on hearing the whole way throughout the game, Totti.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, he's back, the maestro. And then I was like, oh wait, no, Totti Gomez. I was like, come on, don't call him Totti Gomez. Don't get my hopes up like that. I'm a big.
If they had Totti, they probably would have won that game easily.
Honestly, even if he was playing at left back, do you know what I mean?
I don't admittedly know how old Totti Gomez is, but I would say in his defence that I'm sure people thought that about Cristiano Ronaldo when he landed on the scene. I think my hopes up.
I think the actual Totti could probably be his dad. That's like how young he is.
The actual Totti is an absolute hero. I don't have it with me here, but I used to did all my GCSEs and A-level revision with a Totti bobblehead on my desk, which scratched the itch every time I felt the urge to go and play Football Manager instead. Lastly, just to wrap up our discussion of the weekend's game, where do you think this sort of leaves Palace? Which team will be happier with the point? What's the overriding feeling from a Palace perspective coming out of this game?
Well, I'm taking. I'm going to be very positive and optimistic, and just take the last two or the last three games in isolation and say it's great that So if you look at the last three games, the last two Premier League games, and of course the game in the League Cup game, 2 wins against teams that you would expect to beat Palace with the current form that the team is in. That's in Spurs and Aston Villa. Palace got impressive victories in those games. Wolves were due a win. They were playing at the Molineux. They could easily have wrapped up the game, especially after going 2-1 up. Palace came back into the game. Got the equalizer. According to Jamie O'Hara, maybe could have gotten the winner.
That's Jamie O'Hara. I heard him actually say this. It's more Alan Shearer and Gary Lineker. Or was it Alan or Micah Richards and Gary Lineker? Some pundit roofing Joe Hart about it.
But really, the fact when you put all of those together, you'd say the team is in a good place. We were very scared. The rhetoric around Palace about 3 weeks ago is not the same at the moment. A lot of fans, in fact, there were already talks in the rumor mills about, although maybe no substance to them, but there were already talks about possible replacements for Olivier Glasner. So the team is at a better place, definitely. What will be critical is the next game against Fulham. That is a very important game for Palace. If after the game against Fulham, Palace have got 2 wins and 1 draw in their last 3 Premier League games, then it would have been a good return. But the game against Fulham is going to be very, very important, and for me, it has to be a victory that Palace will be gunning for. But in the last 3 games now, in the last 2 weeks thereabout now, you could see that there is there's some better body language from the players. There is the sense of belief that maybe we didn't see in the first couple of games of the season, especially when the team went behind. What we used to see was, just as we've mentioned before on the spot, and Finn alluded to it earlier, going a goal down and, edge dropping. You could see players like Lacroix, players like Gay, charging the boys up, from what we saw against Wolves, Gay took matters, by the scruff and got the equalizer. By the way, it does look like maybe Palace need to be, targeting the back post more often with set pieces. But I'm a lot more positive. Things are looking up a bit. Things are a lot more positive than they were a couple of weeks ago. So you really can't complain. 3 games, 2 wins against Tottenham, against Villa, a draw at Molineux. That really looks like great results in the last 3 games. As I said, a victory against Fulham will just wrap it all up, and we'll go to the international break feeling like Palace are top of the league. Honestly.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Wale. 3 games, not just 3 decent results, but 3 completely deserved results, 3 decent performances. Could have been 3 wins, probably. I think and the point you make about how fired up the players seem for the first time this season, where they seem in a bit of a daze, that they've kind of come into the start of the season too calm and had almost focused on dealing with the expectation and pressure that was brought by end of last season so much that they actually started the season kind of complacent and mellow. The fact they've got that kind of fire in their bellies again is evident. Even in the chaotic way they conceded the goals today, it was just playing with bravery, and that clearly has been the message from Glasner and has borne fruit and brought entertainment and good results back to Palace. On that, we will take our last break and then go into our final segment. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day. So yeah, that's enough on that particular thriller. Michelle Hussein dropped some serious bad news on the Today programme this morning as I was walking to work. Legendary music producer Quincy Jones has died aged 92. Jones was perhaps most famous for his work with Michael Jackson. So this got me thinking, which Palace player would make the best King of Pop? While I will start with your suggestion and see if Finn can beat it. And listeners, please feel free to stop if you've had enough.
Well, first of all, I have to say, I don't think anyone is going to be King of Pop. No one is going to do what Michael Jackson did. Everything he did, I won't go into details. But
it's part of that.
But I don't know. I just look at the squad and I look at physique. I look at who could be a good dancer, who could maybe have moves. And I'm just leaning towards the American Richards. I'm thinking, well, they tend to know how to party. I'm guessing he knows how. I expect he knows how to party. He's probably got some moves, and maybe it's 24, so it's most likely going to be I don't know, maybe more likely going to be a Lil Baby fan other than Michael Jackson. But I'm leaning towards Richards for me. I'm backing him to be the one who's got the chance to be maybe not king, not prince, but something of pop.
I like Richards as a shout. He's showing he can play on a 5, and his haircut is quite Jackson's era, quite Motown, isn't it? So I think he's an absolutely spot on shout, Chris Richards. What about you, Finn? Who are you thinking?
You're really going to like my answer, Joe. I think you already know who I'm going to go for, just because I think he has that bravado. I feel like
might be the same man I'm going for.
I feel like he has that capability. As a music producer myself, I feel like someone like, I don't know what his musical skills are, but I feel like he's got that bravado. Jean-Philippe Mateta, I feel, has that ability to be a sort of great front man, a great sort of, like party starter. But and then it got me thinking about how the other players in the squad, what they would fit into musically. And I thought, for example, Eddie Nketiah and Trevor Chalobah could definitely start like maybe a bit of like a grime thing, maybe like a South London like grime cipher. Mateus Franca could do like a samba thing, but probably would break his leg like during the carnival because he's how he.
I just wonder what Daichi Kamada would.
Daichi Kamada, got him sorted. Daichi Kamada, like we've got loads of amazing Japanese sort of 70s disco. He'd be sort of, he'd be, or if
Nice.
anyone's a bit of a hip hop head, maybe he would do some like New Jabez style hip hop beats. Who else we got? I feel like Joel Ward would be a bit of a sort of, schmoozer. He's got a bit of I don't know, he's got a bit of like a piano lounge feel about him.
Yeah, he could do a Christmas album for sure.
Daniel Munoz could be playing a bit of reggaeton, doing a bit of the Colombian stuff, the Colombian vibes. I definitely think Ismail Assar could be a good jazz musician because he keeps on playing ghost notes, as in he keeps on missing them out.
It's definitely Afrobeats.
Oh,
definitely.
For real. I think Eze's got that sort of, exactly. He's got that Afro beats. I told you there was a bad joke coming, by the way, with Ismail Assar. So
yeah, that was really good.
I'm glad you went easy on me.
So that was and I was expecting.
And then I think Dean Henderson, he's got a bit of like, I think I always feel like drummers are a bit like this, aren't they? They're just like, they are the keepers, the goalkeepers of a band. And I feel like Dean Henderson would definitely, I could see him behind a kit. He would definitely be doing like,
I was going to say that,
like an indie band or a rock band or something like that. So, yeah,
absolute lunatics. Dean Henderson fits that category pretty well. I like the idea of the Chalobah and Ketia South London grime scene. I was actually thinking on that. Do you know those guys, Pete and Baz, those sort of older boys?
I've been told that's basically my trajectory. So looking forward to that as an old teaser.
Maybe Roy. Maybe Roy could be an outside shout for a.
He could jump on one of their tracks, couldn't he? That'd be a great little featuring.
Roy.
What would his grime name just be? Woy or Woy the Boy?
Burna Boy, something like that. I think that I've obviously gone Mateta as well, unsurprisingly. One, he had a whole Stade de France singing in unison over the Olympics. I've not seen anyone galvanise that many Frenchmen sing together since Hugh Jackman or Russell Crowe. He's got the bod to sell the calendars. He's got a good name. I think having the three names in there is really positive. If you've got any doubts about his ability to move, watch his goal against United last season. He's in touch with his artistic side too, or at least his sensitive side, as evidenced by video which Finn sent through to our group chat earlier, where he rubs Dean Henderson's shoulders for.
It was very sensual, wasn't it? It was quite a while as well. It was really nice that he's offering that support to his teammates, but at the same time, like, what is the cutoff point? When is it like, okay, right? I appreciate you're trying to relax me and get me in the zone, but now I just feel like
the video was a loop or something.
It's bordering on a HR issue. Like, I know we spend a lot of time together, like there's changing rooms and stuff, but come on.
It doesn't look like he's getting more relaxed throughout the course of the massage. Dean Henderson, his shoulders start going up and he's like muttering stuff to himself.
Or maybe he was massaging his own fingers, maybe.
On Mateta, he also tucks his shirt in, so I think he'd appeal to the Nans.
I'm telling you, that's where his fortunes changed. Everyone says it was Oliver Glasner. I'm telling you, as soon as he started tucking his shirt in, that's when the goals started pouring in, man. I'm telling you.
The great pound. That's what it's all about.
To be honest, if we ever come up with something about the maybe shortest Palace players, I feel Joe would still say Mateta.
He loves him. He's just obsessed.
Best goalkeeper.
We'll have to facilitate a meeting with you guys. I think it would, like, there's a really good clip. I'll find it later and put it in our group chat and on our Twitter page as well, so our listeners can enjoy. But there's him being interviewed in a cafe in Norwood Junction, and he's wearing sunglasses. I think it's like November as well. He's wearing sunglasses inside this cafe, and he's being asked questions by his teammates. I can't remember who it was. And he's sitting there and he's just like, they'll ask, hey, so what do you prefer? Like coffee or tea, or what do you have in your orange juice? And he goes, I just like herbal tea, He's just being very sort of like devilish. He's sort of being like, he's being a minx. Do you know what I mean? He's sort of like cheeky.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. There would definitely be an underlying saucy note to whatever Mateta did. I'm not sure what the genre would be, but there would be a bravado, a certain amount of It's getting excited just thinking about John Philip Mateta's song before I fall into a trance or into a daze thinking about the album. We can wrap the podcast.
First track called Pre-Game Massage.
I mean, that's the single leading up to the album.
Rubbing in the tunnel.
Yeah. The first track is just actually nothing for 20 minutes. And then one track called Incomplete Headed Pass. I think on that, we'll wrap up the pod. Wale and Finn, thank you for joining me today.
No, thank you, mate.
Cheers, Paul.
Thank you for listening. As ever, give us 5 stars. It helps immensely. And we hope to see you tomorrow.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.